Channel 3 Live at noon. I'm Erica Moke. Today, the West Michigan community is saying goodbye to a fire chief who dedicated his life to keeping us safe. Hundreds of firefighters are in our area for the funeral of Comstock Township Fire Chief Ed Switalski. He was killed last week while helping people involved in a crash along Interstate 94. That funeral is starting at any minute now at Wings Event Center. This morning, there was a procession for Chief Switalski through Kalamazoo. Firefighters and community members line the streets for the emotional procession. News Channel 3 has been live all morning long. And we begin our team coverage today with News Channel 3's Kirk Mason. Kirk is live outside Wings Event Center. Kirk.
Erica, we've seen a lot of tears out here today, including from some of West Michigan's strongest, the police officers and firefighters who work every day to protect us. It's not surprising this would hit them so hard since one of their own died doing their job. Some of those tears from the Kalamazoo County Sheriff, who told me this morning that on the very day Chief Switalski was killed, the chief had been warning one of his deputies about the importance of being safe out of the scene so they would not be hit by a car. A reminder of how much the chief cared about others. You'll see over my shoulder we have literally hundreds of fire trucks, other emergency vehicles. They made up the procession. It was a very powerful scene when that procession arrived here at the Wings Event Center. I want to go to that video now. You'll see a refit fire truck from the 1930s. It served on the streets of Detroit. That fire truck carried the casket of Chief Switalski into the Wings Event Center. Riding on the back, one of the firefighters I spoke to, he was standing on the back of that truck. He told me this is just a very difficult day, but he said we will get through this together. When he was talking about we, of course, he was talking about his fellow firefighters. The funeral is set to begin any moment now. We're taking a live look in now inside at the Wings Event Center. It has not begun yet because it was such a long procession. Literally, it took 45 to 50 minutes for each car finally to be parked in spot, but we expect that funeral to begin any moment now. Now, this funeral procession started in Oshtemo Township on 9th Street at the funeral home, and then wound up north to Stadium Drive, then right into downtown Kalamazoo. Plenty of crowds waiting on the streets there. I even saw a moving picture on Twitter when the procession passed a WMU soccer camp, a bunch of kids watching the procession. News Channel 3's Jessica Wheeler was downtown when it made it there. Jess, what was the scene like there?
It really was a moving tribute here to the chief in downtown Kalamazoo. Just before the procession started, the flag behind us here at the Kalamazoo County Courthouse was lowered in his honor, and the streets here in downtown Kalamazoo were lined with people coming out to support Chief Switalski, many of them saying they felt the need to be here to honor him. Some stood at attention, others saluted as hundreds of fire trucks went by. Many from Illinois, where the chief grew up and worked as a firefighter for 30 years before coming here to Comstock. All corners of Michigan were represented, with many trucks coming from West Michigan, some as far away as Holland, east as Detroit and Port Huron. Deputies from the courthouse downtown came out to pay their respects, as did many from area businesses, hoping to give the chief a proper send-off.
I really feel sorry for the family because it's such a tragedy. Yep, and I'm just here, you know, to support. He was loved, and he will be taken away in love, and I hope he rests in peace.
And while the display here certainly was very moving and a wonderful tribute to Chief Switalski, I spoke with his wife yesterday, and she said if you really want to honor him, the thing you can do is pull over, slow down, stop your car when you see emergency lights and vehicles either in front of or behind you. She said it's something he taught to many, and if one person remembers that, his death will not be in vain. Reporting live in downtown Kalamazoo, Jessica Wheeler, News Channel 3. Kirk, back to you.
All right, thank you, Jessica. And when that funeral procession left downtown Kalamazoo, then headed east for Comstock Township, which is, of course, the area that Chief Switalski served, there are 3 fire stations that the procession passed, 3 Comstock Township fire stations, including Station 1. That is where Chief Switalski worked. Jason Poor was there.
The Comstock Fire Hall on River Street is where Switalski used to work. When the procession came by, there was something very special waiting out front. The bells toll as the procession passes the fire hall, and Chief Switalski's gear was set on the ground out front, waiting for him to pass, a strong and moving symbol as emergency vehicle after emergency vehicle moved past the hall. Many firefighters saluting or slowing down as they passed. Battle Creek firefighters standing by as they man the station in case of an emergency.
It's definitely a sombering experience. It's never a good feeling when something like this happens, and it is impressive, though, the way this community has pulled this event together.
Coming up later today, we'll have more from the Battle Creek Fire Department and what it means for them to get to serve today so that Comstock firefighters could attend the funeral. Reporting in Comstock, Jason Poor, News Channel 3.
All right, thank you, Jason. And of course, people came from all over Michigan and beyond. We saw fire trucks from South Bend, Grand Rapids, Livonia, and beyond. More than 250 trucks. We counted the procession lasting up to 3 miles long. And of course, one of the other places they visited, another fire station in Comstock Township. Brittany Gray was there.
Dozens of people lined the streets here outside of station number 2 on East H Avenue. Parents and grandparents brought their children out to pay respects to the former fire chief. We also spoke with a father and son, both former fire chiefs here at this station. This is a tough day for the Comstock community. So many people told me he was such a personable man, someone you couldn't help but love. And he left a strong impression in just the 4 short years that he served this community. The 2 former fire chiefs I spoke with tell me losing Chief Switalski is like losing a family member. They were so grateful to see so much support, not just from the Comstock community, but from all over. They say they're lucky to still be here.
Just reaffirms the brotherhood, not only our community, nationwide. Emergency workers, whether it's EMS, police, fire, whatever you do in emergency service, work together. We hug our families before we go to work and hope to God we see them the next day.
This morning we saw fire trucks from as far away as Lansing, Grand Rapids, Livonia, even South Bend, Indiana. I'm also told there was a fire truck from Chief Switalski's former firehouse in suburban Chicago. Coming up tonight at 5 and 6, hear more from those 2 former fire chiefs. Reporting in Comstock from Fire Station number 2, Brittany Gray, News Channel 3.
All right, thank you, Brittany. We're back out live outside the Wings Event Center where the funeral is expected to start any moment now for Chief Switalski. A big crowd gathered in there. We're told they're expecting thousands, potentially up to 5,000 in that ceremony, expected to start any moment now. Brittany mentioned Chief Switalski came to us from suburban Chicago. He'd been in West Michigan about 4 years, but based on the people we're talking to out here today, people who lined the streets, those who worked with him, those who just knew him, it felt like he'd been here for 34 years. He'd made quite a mark on the people of West Michigan in a relatively short time. I mentioned the story that Kalamazoo County Sheriff shared with me this morning about his care for his officers at crash scenes. I knew Chief Switalski well from a story I worked on with him a couple years ago, where he made it his mission in our story, as we did a test, burned down a house, and he wanted to show the importance of shutting your doors at night to protect your family. A lot of people want to keep those doors open so they can peer in on those kids. He was adamant, you shut those doors because the temperature in a fire stays a lot lower, and the kids, well, they have a chance to survive, a better chance. That was the type of person Chief Ed Switalski was. Reporting live from the Wings Event Center, Kirk Mason, News Channel 3.
Kirk, thank you. And News Channel 3 will continue to bring you team coverage of the funeral for fallen Comstock Fire Chief Ed Switalski. Right now, we are live streaming the funeral. You can watch it online and on the CW7. A victim in a West Michigan stabbing is released from the hospital. Now we're learning how the assault began during a Father's Day barbecue.
Thanks. Thunderstorms jump-starting your Thursday morning commute. Let's go hour by hour. This is 3 a.m., now 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. When gusty winds and hail are most likely, that's on the other side of the break.
And before we go to break, we take a live look at the funeral of Comstock Fire Chief Ed Switalski. As Kirk mentioned, people are starting to file in. That funeral expected to begin any moment now. We'll be right back. Right now, West Michigan is saying goodbye to a man who dedicated his life to keeping us safe. We are live at Wings Event Center as thousands of firefighters and community members say goodbye to Comstock Fire Chief Ed Switalski. That funeral beginning any moment now. Stay with us. Welcome back. A somber day in West Michigan as the community says goodbye to Comstock Fire Chief Ed Switalski. News Channel 3's Kirk Mason is outside Wings Event Center where the funeral is happening. Kirk.
Eric, it has been a somber day. We've seen a lot of tears in the parking lot. No doubt there will be many more inside the Wings Event Center where we expect the funeral to begin any moment now. You see all these fire trucks behind me over the shoulder, literally hundreds. The funeral procession ended where we are right now, leading to the Wings Event Center. We want to show you some video from a short time ago when that procession arrived. You'll see a retrofit fire truck that served on the streets of Detroit from the 1930s. That carried the casket of Chief Switalski. A couple of firefighters riding on the back of that truck. One of them I spoke with today saying this is a very, very hard day. He said we will get through it together. He meaning himself and other firefighters will get through this together. It has been a very difficult day. We've been talking to a lot of people, a lot of tears. One sign really stood out today, which says when you move flashing lights, when you see flashing lights, move over. A reminder of the way Chief Switalski died. His wife telling News Channel 3's Jessica Wheeler, if any lesson can be learned from this terrible situation, it is that lesson. Reporting live from Wings Event Center, Kirk Mason, News Channel 3.
Kirk, and as we've mentioned, you can watch the funeral online at WWMT.com as well as on the CW7. And be sure to tune in to News Channel 3 live at 5. We will have team coverage of how West Michigan is remembering this fallen hero.